Hello, guys. Midnight. All right, folks, tonight we're diving into a grim adventure through time. No knights, no ghosts, no epic battles. Just the stomach-churning reality of Victorian hygiene, or rather, the complete absence of it. Brace yourselves, this one might leave you gagging. 020. It's not swords or specters that'll get you. It's the stench. We're talking about an era where soap was dubious, toothpaste was a fantasy, and indoor plumbing was a pipe dream. Before we dive in, hit that like button if you're enjoying the vibe, and subscribe if you're ready for more. 039. Drop a comment with your city and the current time. I'm over here imagining the reek of stale ale and chimney soot. Picture this. You've just landed in London, 1850. 1 o'clock. The air hits you like a punch, thick with coal dust, horse dung, and the sour tang of unwashed humanity. You try breathing through your nose, instantly regret it, and switch to your mouth. Big mistake. It's like licking a rusty spoon with a hint of rotten eggs. Welcome to the 19th century. 120. Your boots squelch into a greasy film of grime on the cobblestones. Think ash, mud, spit, and whatever got tossed from a window. Speaking of which, splat. A bucket of slop lands nearby, courtesy of a chamber pot. A voice from above shouts, "Mind yourself." A bit late for that. 145. You're not dressed for the era, so you're drawing stares. Even if you were in proper wool and boots, you'd still stand out. Why? You're too clean. Your skin doesn't glisten with coal dust, and your clothes don't smell like a bonfire. Suspicious. You head down a crowded market street. 205. Everything's claustrophobic. Stalls, people, animals. A pig's chewing on what might be a boot. A grubby kid clutching a half-rotted fish toddles past like it's a trophy. The line between commerce and chaos is blurry at best. 225. The smells are relentless. Spoiled fruit, fresh blood from a butcher's stall, and a sharp, smoky whiff from a chimney sweep's cart. You try breathing through your scarf. Useless. Fun fact. London's population in 1850 topped 2 million, all crammed into a city with no real sewage system. 245. The Thames is both water supply and open sewer. Picture homes stacked like rotting crates, damp and teeming with fleas, lice, and rats bold enough to steal your lunch. You hear skittering behind a wall. Probably nothing. Definitely not a family of rodents plotting a takeover. 305. Let's talk chimneys. Every house has one, caked with soot and often cleaned by kids small enough to crawl inside. Their faces are black, their lungs wrecked by adolescence. A charming Victorian career, if you ignore the mortal peril. You stop by a water pump where people fill buckets. A girl offers you a sip from her cup. Politely decline. The water looks clear but teems with invisible nasties. 330. Germ theory hasn't caught on yet. People blame disease on foul smells, not bacteria. The miasma theory reigns supreme, meaning everyone's dodging bad odors while cholera and typhoid sneak through the back door. 350. Meanwhile, scientists and officials bicker. Some push for a proper sewer system. Others call a pricey fad since stink doesn't kill. They debate in print while bodies stack up. Spoiler, the reformers win, but not before a brutal summer forces their hand. 410. Your skin feels tacky now, your hair slick with city grime. You've been here less than an hour, and London's already claimed you. A man with a soot-stained coat brushes past, reeking of tobacco and damp wool. You want to bolt, but you're in too deep. 30 chapters of filth, sweat, and mystery liquids await. 435. Fun quirk. Victorians didn't eliminate smells. They masked them. Lavender, vinegar, or pricey perfumes were the go-to. Hygiene was a performance. Smell better, seem cleaner, actually wash? Optional. You reach a bustling square where performers draw a crowd. One swallows fire, another juggles live rats. Kids cheer, tossing crumbs the rats chase with unsettling zeal. You think about clapping, then notice your hands are already sticky with something. 5 o'clock, day one, and the city's winning. Your boots are damp, your breath tastes like ash, and your dignity's fading fast. At least no one's smiling. Dentistry's a nightmare we'll tackle soon. 520. You wake up barely, on a straw mattress that groans under you, wrapped in a scratchy blanket smelling of mildew and stew. A sliver of window lets in a chilly breeze and the faint whiff of street muck. Morning in 1850 London. You're already over it. 5:45. Your modern brain screams for a shower, but baths here are rare. Once a month, maybe if you're rich and reckless. Even then, it's less cleansing and more like simmering in your own filth. Your room has no plumbing, just a chipped basin and a jug of murky water. You splash your face. It's cold, metallic, and vaguely alive. 6:05, downstairs, your landlady offers to heat bathwater for a price. It's a production, hauling a tin tub, boiling kettles, fetching water from a well. Privacy's a myth, and the water's shared. Eldest first, then everyone else. If you're last, you're bathing in human broth. 6:25, historical tidbit. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater was literal. By the time kids got their turn, the water was so cloudy you could lose them in it. You brave the tub, knees to chin, try not to dwell on its previous occupants. The soap's a greasy lump that smells like tallow and defeat. It doesn't lather, it just smears. 6:50, shampoo? Nope. You might get hair soap, same as regular soap, different label, or a homemade mix of vinegar and soda. Rinsing leaves your hair brittle, with bits of soap lodged in it for days. Some use beer or beef fat for shine, turning heads into fly magnets. 7:15, water itself was suspect. Doctors warned that frequent bathing could weaken you or let disease slip through your pores. So people dab with cloths, spritz perfume, and hope for the best. Even Queen Victoria stuck to quick wipes and heavy scents. Scholars debate how often anyone really washed. Some say weekly for workers, others say rarely for most. Either way, no one's fresh. 7:40. You towel off with a cloth that doubles as sandpaper. Your skin's raw, your scalp itches, and you're barely cleaner. Back into your grimy clothes, because laundry's another ordeal. The city air undoes your efforts in minutes. Bathing here isn't a treat. It's a logistical nightmare with a side of existential dread. 8 o'clock. Your hair's next. Post-bath, it's a mess, greasy yet dry, crackling like static. The boarding house brush is a splintery relic with bristles from who knows what animal. The handle's sticky. You don't ask why. 8:20. Hair washing was a once every few months affair. Most just brushed it, hoping to spread the oils around. If you're fancy, you might whip up a paste of egg yolk and gin. Otherwise, it's the same sad soap, leaving your scalp crunchy and smelling like a butcher shop. 8:40. Bear grease was a trendy hair tonic. Yes, actual bear fat, sold as a growth booster. It worked if you didn't mind smelling like a forest predator. Lice were universal, not shameful. Families combed for nits by lamplight, a grim bonding ritual. 9 o'clock. Your reflection shows a frizzy, lopsided mess. Men slathered on pomades, waxy mixes of fat or petroleum to glue their hair down. These were so greasy they birthed antimacassars, cloths to protect furniture from oily heads. Women's hair was a saga, long, heavy, often padded with horsehair or borrowed braids, held together by pins and grit. 9:25, hair was sacred. People wove it into jewelry or art, a keepsake in a death-heavy era. Brushing 100 strokes a day was a ritual for shine, not cleanliness. You tie your hair back with a ribbon, blending into the sea of greasy heads. In Victorian London, grooming's about survival, not style. 9:50, now your teeth. You flash a grin in the mirror and wince. Time to tackle dental care, Victorian style. You find a toothbrush wooden, with stiff bristles from a pig, or worse. It's less a tool and more a medieval torture device. 10:10, toothpaste? Try a jar of dentifrice, a gritty mix of chalk, ash, and maybe mint. It tastes like dirt with a hint of regret. Some used eggshells or charcoal, the bold rinsed with ammonia, trading enamel for a fleeting gleam. Tooth soap was a luxury, leaving your mouth waxy but clean. 10:35, dentistry was brutal. Tooth pullers worked public squares, yanking molars with no numbing, just a fiddle for distraction. Barber surgeons doubled as dentists, reusing filthy tools. The rich got gold fillings or mercury treatments. Progress, but still dicey. 11 o'clock. Artificial teeth were often real, harvested from corpses or battlefields. Waterloo teeth came from fallen soldiers, fitted into wealthy mouths. Bad breath was a moral failing, masked with cloves or sachets. You scrub with the soot paste, rinse with suspect water, and pray. Your gums bleed, but your mouth's better? 11:25. Portraits rarely show smiles for a reason. Teeth were a gamble. Sugar was less common, but coarse diets wore teeth down. Skeletons show mixed results, some decent, others wrecked. You dodge a fizzing tooth powder, likely acid, and step out, ready to face the final frontier, your clothes. The underlayers are calling, and they're not kind. Here's a rephrased version of your narrative, preserving the immersive, vivid tone and structure while refreshing the language and details to maintain the gritty atmosphere of Victorian hygiene without repeating the original phrasing. 2400 hours 40. Everyone loves to swoon over the era's top hats, crinolines, and frock coats, but no one dares mention what's lurking beneath. Prepare yourself for a deeply unsettling encounter with Victorian underwear. You dig through the musty trunk by your sagging bed and unearth your daily undergarments. 2400 hours 57. You pull out a pair of stiff off-white linen drawers, tied at the waist with a fraying cord. No stretch, no comfort, and, here's the twist, no crotch seam. That's right, they're open at the bottom. Split crotch drawers, practical for chamber pots, catastrophic for modesty. These are washed daily or even weekly. 25 to 22. In many working-class homes, undergarments get a rinse only when desperation demands it. You might wear the same pair for days, flipping between two if you're fortunate enough to own a spare. Laundry is an ordeal. Boiling water, harsh lye soap, and the endurance of a dock worker. 25:40. Most folks just hang their underthings by the fire to freshen and call it a day. You tug them on, try not to dwell on their previous wearers. Clothes, especially underclothes, were often shared or passed down. Siblings swapped drawers. Servants took what was available. 25:57. Secondhand markets and rag pickers sold bundles of used garments, some fresh from a pauper's grave. That undershirt you grabbed? It might have been buried with its last owner. Over the drawers goes a chemise, a thin linen layer to shield your outer clothes from sweat and filth. 26:21. These are your foundation garments, the only barrier between you and layers of wool, dust, and horsehair stuffing. Women pile on corsets, petticoats, and padded bustles. Men wrestle with shirts, vests, and bulky drawers. Wool dominates everything. 26:40. You're already sweating, though somehow clammy too. The clothes stick in odd spots and sag in others. Everything scratches. Your collar feels like it's carving your jawline, and the trousers seem designed to punish your shins. Fact: Victorian clothing prioritized propriety over comfort. 27:00. Garments were about enforcing modesty and class, not ease. Even kids were trussed up in restrictive layers. Young boys wore dresses until breeched around age 5 or 6. Girls were laced into corsets early to mold their spines, because nothing says youth like breathlessness and pinched ribs. 27:25. How did anyone survive summer? Badly. Fainting was common, especially for women in tightly laced corsets under heaps of skirts. Some doctors blamed corsets for everything from dizziness to squashed organs. Others insisted they upheld moral posture. 27:44. Scholars still argue over corset dangers. Some say reformers exaggerated to push change. Others cite x-rays of warped skeletons and medical records of breathlessness and gut issues. Likely, both are true. Some women cinched for vanity. Others wore looser stays for support. Either way, breathing was optional. 28:09. Stepping into the bustling streets. Your period-appropriate outfit does nothing to keep you clean. It's a magnet for grime. Dust from a passing cart coats your cuffs. A splash from a horse-drawn wagon soaks your hem. Someone coughs too close to your elbow. You're already a mess. 28:29. You spot a woman hanging laundry on a line, stiff, yellowish sheets steaming in the cold air. She's pressing them with a coal-heated iron, but there's no underwear in sight. That's deliberate. Displaying drawers or chemises was scandalous, even if clean. 28:48. Underwear dried indoors, hidden by the hearth or screen. Socks on the line? Fine. Pantaloons? Obscene. You trudge on, your clothes a sweaty cocoon of wool and shame. Every step feels robotic, like you're a marionette in a poorly tailored costume. 29:07. The word hygiene barely exists here. Cleanliness is a social performance, not a health concern. Crusty inner layers are fine as long as your outer clothes look respectable. Appearance is king. 29:26. A street vendor hawks corset laces and ladies' essentials. One packet claims to prevent fainting with balanced tension, a ribbon with a hint of stretch. Another promises to safeguard virtue and form. You don't inquire further. Back in your room, undressing is as grueling as dressing was. Each layer peels off like it's exhaling. Your chemise releases a puff of dust, maybe soot, maybe despair. 29:52. You consider airing your undergarments by the fire, but recall your host scorching her knickers last week. Instead, you drape them over the bed frame, hoping no one inspects too closely. Victorian underwear isn't about comfort. It's about restraint, modesty, and not roasting alive. Tomorrow, you'll do it all again. 30:23. You wake to clattering hooves and a cough that sounds like someone's hacking up their soul. The fire's out, and your linens feel like they've soaked up London's damp overnight. You're aired, underclothes are crisp in spots and damp in others. A new day, a new quest. Soap. 30:46. You're hunting for real soap, not the lavender-scented dream of your fantasies. Victorian soap comes in two flavors. Fancy for the elite with maids, and everyone else's, which doubles as floor cleaner. Guess which one you're getting. 31:05. At the general store, reeking of mildew and pickled herring, soap sits on a shelf between candles and a jar of dubious syrup. The bar you're handed is a greasy, gray-brown lump smelling of tallow, ash, and regret. No wrapper, no label, just soap. 31:24. You buy it because the alternative is wiping yourself with a rag and optimism. Back in your dim room, you set the soap by the chipped basin of icy water and brace yourself. This won't be pleasant. 31:43. Victorian soap is brutal, made from boiled animal fat and lye, a caustic mix that could strip paint. If the soap maker got the balance wrong, it might strip your skin too. You rub it between your hands, and it barely suds, grudgingly foaming after vigorous effort. 32:02. The smell worsens. Think rancid fat and a hint of rust. It's like the soap resents being used. Victorians saw soap as a moral tool. Clean body, clean soul. Reformers handed it out to the poor with Bible verses and lectures on virtue, but you doubt they used it themselves. 32:25. You scrub your arms, wincing as the soap stings a cut. Your skin feels raw, like you've been scoured with gravel. Rinsing in frigid water tightens your skin until it feels like it's shrinking. The soap, now slimy, sits smugly in its dish. You cover it to avoid its gaze. 32:48. Quirky fact. Victorians used soap for odd remedies. Some tucked bars in beds to ward off cramps. Others carried slivers for luck. One bizarre trend involved soap suppositories for constipation. Yes, really. No one knows who thought that was a good idea. 33:07. You stow the soap, already dreading round two. On the street, you spot men with soap wrapped in cloth, like talismans of respectability. Kids hawk blessed soap door to door, claiming it cleans body and spirit. A soap peddler spouts rhymes and sermons, a one-man hygiene crusade. 33:30. Most don't wash daily. Soap's costly, water's a hassle, and frequent bathing seems excessive, even risky. Some believe it weakens you, others lack the time. Scholars debate soap's prevalence. Some diaries suggest regular use, especially for laundry, while others describe it as a luxury, often saved for clothes, not skin. 33:54. Homemade soap was common but grim, made by boiling bones and fat with ash. It smelled like a barnyard disaster and risked chemical burns. No wonder many skipped it. You're marginally cleaner, though your skin's tight and itchy. It's a small victory. 34:13. Tomorrow, you face a new horror. Chamber pots and the art of waste disposal. The sun's barely up, and you're already in crisis. It's not the soap, it's nature calling, urgently. Indoor plumbing is a distant dream, so you turn to the chamber pot. 34:36. Under your bed sits a ceramic bowl with faded floral designs, deceptively charming for its purpose. This go-under is your only toilet. No flush, no privacy, just you, the pot, and thin walls. 34:55. You lift it, noting the slosh from last night's use. Yours or your host's, you don't ask. Using it requires balance and precision. Spill, and you're out of luck. Once done, you face the next challenge, disposal. 35:14. In a pre-plumbing city, waste management is a group effort. Households empty chamber pots into backyard cesspits, or, if those are full, out the window. Guard as low. Someone yells, a polite warning, too late as slop hits the street. 35:38. You peer out your window. The alley below glistens with filth. A man dumps a bucket into the gutter, shouting a half-hearted alert. A woman across the way curses. Now it's your turn. You lean out, mutter "Gardaloo," and tip the pot. It lands with a wet smack, joining the street stew. 36:00. This waste doesn't vanish. It pools in gutters with dung, food scraps, and dead rats. Rain turns it into a river. Drought makes it a stench cloud. Some homes have privies, outhouses over pits, rarely with doors. Night soil men empty these pits, hauling waste in barrels under cover of darkness. 36:25. These workers are well paid but ostracized. No one invites them to tea. In cramped tenements like yours, chamber pots rule. Public toilets are decades away. Caught short outside, you beg a shopkeeper or duck behind a barrel. Women, weighed down by skirts and propriety, have it worse. 36:49. Portable urinets, funnel-like devices, let women relieve themselves standing, but they're far from dignified. Scholars debate street filth levels. Reformers exaggerated for sanitation campaigns, but cholera deaths and tainted water prove the mess was real. 37:12. Workers spread gravel to mask odors, a technique called macadamization. It's a temporary fix, the filth's still there. You pass a tasher, knee-deep in a sewer, fishing for coins or rags. It's a filthy, risky job, but it pays. 37:35. Reformers like Edwin Chadwick pushed for cleaner cities, linking filth to disease and immorality. His reports, filled with tales of cesspools and dead rats, eventually spurred change, but not before decades of wading through muck. 37:53. Back home, you rinse your chamber pot with cold water and a rag you'd rather not think about. It's ready for tonight's repeat performance. Victorian life is a gauntlet of indignities, none more humbling than the lack of a proper toilet. 38:17. You step out, hair tamed with grease and grit, boots sinking into the street's slimy film. The air's a dense fog of rot, smoke, and despair. You avoid looking down. Cobblestones hide horrors. 38:39. A fishmonger unpacks crates of questionable seafood, the smell burning your eyes. A cold cart spills dust, and a kid rolls in it, unbothered. Horses are everywhere, leaving piles you dodge, only to hit a cloud of yesterday's leavings. 39:03. A man collects dung for fertilizer, nodding like it's just another day. It is. The odors shift, sewage, fish, smoke, then a fleeting whiff of lavender from a woman's shawl. You cling to it, but it's gone, replaced by burnt toast or worse. 39:27. Streets are paved, barely, with cobblestones packed with unidentifiable sludge. Gutters brim with morning waste. Scavengers sweep filth into piles, hoping the city collects it before rain turns it into soup. 39:50. You hit a main road, louder and fouler. Crowds press close, their unwashed coats brushing yours. You duck into an alley for air mistake. It's a dank archive of rot, with a leaking pipe and a bucket catching drips you don't investigate. 40:14. The miasma theory makes the stench terrifying. Bad air was thought to carry disease. It wasn't wrong. Filth bred germs, but masking odors with vinegar or herbs didn't fix the source. People lived in this, vendors selling pies, kids splashing in puddles, a fiddler playing for coins. 40:38. Locals seem immune. Their noses hardened to the city's reek. You pass a bakery. Its bread sent a brief salvation, but a tanner's runoff kills it. By day's end, you're coated in dust, soot, and mystery grime. Your coat exhales a cloud of street smells. 41:02. Tomorrow looms. The public bath, where cleanliness comes with a side of dread. Your skin's gritty, your toes hosting a science experiment. You can't smell good here, but the promise of less filth is too tempting to ignore. 41:26. Public baths aren't luxurious. They're a gritty attempt at hygiene, pushed in the 1850s to clean the working class. You find one wedged between a butcher and a pawn shop, its sign reading, baths and wash house, men's side. 41:49. Inside, steam smells of damp stone and old leather. The clerk, hands rough as bark, eyes you skeptically. You pay tuppence for a token, a coarse towel, and a soap sliver still warm from another's grip. 42:08. The changing room is a cramped hall of hooks and slick benches. You hang your coat, avoiding puddles and other bathers' gazes. The floor is a slippery mix of water and grime. Your cubicle is a tiled closet with a dented tub, a dripping spigot, and a tiny window. 42:32. The tub's half full of lukewarm, murky water shared with prior bathers. You hesitate, then step in. The soap barely lathers, leaving a greasy film. You scrub, eyes shut, ignoring the textures surfacing on your skin. 42:55. A voice barks, 5 minutes. You're barely started, but time's tight, 10 minutes to dunk and rinse. The water's now a grim beige. You towel off with the damp, scratchy cloth, your skin squeaky, but not quite clean. 43:18. You drop the towel in a basket, already regretting the floor's fresh grime on your feet. The changing room's a maze of awkwardness. Modesty's preached, but privacy's scarce. A man boasts about pine tar soap repelling fleas. You nod and flee. 43:42. Outside, the air's no fresher, but it beats the bath's stew. You're cleaner, barely, and ready to face another day of Victorian filth, armed with little more than grit and a fading hope for plumbing. You glance back at the bathhouse, wondering about its cleaning routine. It's not cleaned often, just quick splashes of cold water and an occasional sweep. Disinfectants aren't common since germ theory isn't widely accepted. People believe the smell, not bacteria, is the issue, so they use carbolic soap or burn herbs for sanitation. Some public bathhouses double as laundry facilities, with water often reused. One stall might have someone scrubbing socks while you bathe, efficient but hardly hygienic. Historians debate how much the poor use these bathhouses. Some see them as rare havens of warmth and privacy. Others argue they were avoided due to stigma, cost, or distrust of charity-driven cleanliness. Many preferred washing at home with a basin and rag, despite the inconvenience. Back in your room, you peel off damp socks and collapse onto a straw mattress. Your skin feels raw, not clean, just temporarily sanitized. You long for modern showers, pressurized taps, and shampoo that doesn't double as industrial degreaser. You're mildly traumatized, but survive the bathhouse. Tomorrow, though, you'll face the backyard privy and soon miss the chamber pot. You wake stiff, itchy, and damp, not from sweat but from heavy morning air. The full chamber pot under your bed reeks of ammonia, forcing you to confront the privy. You dress in the same clothes. Fresh outfits are a luxury for the rich or obsessive. Outside, the air smells of chimney smoke, fried kidneys, and manure. The privy, a tilting wooden shed behind your lodging, awaits. You navigate a narrow, damp corridor, dodging laundry lines, coal piles, and an irritable dog. The privy's door barely latches, and its roof is more decorative than functional. Inside, it's dark, with only a sliver of light through cracked boards, accompanied by flies. The stench is overwhelming, like history and regret combined. The seat is ruffled over a pit of indescribable depth and odor. No flush, just gravity and hope. Newspaper scraps serve as toilet paper, a luxury compared to corn cobs or moss used elsewhere. You sit carefully, avoiding contact with anything, while flies swirl and heat rises from below. You reflect on every choice that led to this moment. Privies are rarely cleaned. Waste accumulates until a night soil man empties the pit, sometimes after years. Some just dig a new hole and move the shed. You finish, using a scrap of yesterday's penny dreadful, and escape, brushing your coat against the stall, an emotional wound you won't recover from. The privy's smell clings to you like a vengeful spirit. In crowded areas, privies are communal, shared by multiple families, with debates over etiquette like knocking or waiting in freezing rain. The pail closet system, with removable buckets, is a step toward plumbing but often neglected, fostering rats and disease. Scholars argue whether privies were universally awful or just a fact of life. Rural ones might be tidy, but urban neglect fueled cholera, typhus, and dysentery. People knew bad smells brought disease, so they whitewashed walls, burned sulfur, or hung herbs to mask the miasma. Back at your lodging, the open back door fails to clear the stench, now mingling with the kitchen's boiled offal. The privy is a compromise, not comfort, a routine partnership with a box of decades-old waste. Next, you face the ordeal of Victorian womanhood. Your landlady lends you an outfit, a chemise to soak up sweat, split-crotch drawers, a mildew-scented corset, petticoats, and a heavy dress. The corset, laced tightly, constricts your ribs and breath, making you feel like a haunted accordion. Victorians saw this as beautiful, a sign of status and control, but it's torture. Outside, the heat traps sweat in your layers, and without deodorant, you rely on talcum powder or lemon slices, which sting and fail. Perfumes like lavender or rose essence turn sour, mixing with sweat. Pomanders, perfumed wax balls pinned to dresses, melt into your chemise, adding to the misery. At the market, everyone smells of musty linen and coal smoke, but no one complains. It's normal. Women carry handkerchiefs for delicate dabbing, but sweat stains and rashes are inevitable. Hygiene is performative. Appearing clean matters more than being clean. Fainting from overheating is common, blamed on delicate constitutions. Diaries suggest some women skipped full regalia for lighter clothing, but expectations remained relentless. By day's end, your dress is damp, your corset leaves dense, and you're too exhausted to care about the smell. As a Victorian gentleman, the heat is no kinder. You don cotton drawers, an undershirt, a stiff-collared shirt, a waistcoat, high-waisted trousers, and a wool jacket. Respectable but suffocating. A cravat, bowler hat, and gloves complete the ensemble. Within minutes outside, you're sweating through every layer. Removing anything is scandalous. Even working-class men face judgment for fewer layers. Everyone smells of wool, armpits, and melting hair pomade. Some sprinkle herbs and undergarments or dab vinegar behind ears, but it's feudal. Shops are hotter, packed with sweaty bodies. Historians note that while working-class men might wear thinner fabrics, middle and upper-class men adhered to rigid dress codes. He'd be damned. Back home, you peel off soaked layers, collapsing in despair, grateful for modern, breathable fabrics. Then comes the great stink of 1858. The Thames, a stew of sewage, carcasses, and chemical runoff, becomes unbearable in the hot, dry summer. The stench seeps everywhere, forcing Parliament to soak curtains in chloride of lime. People hold perfumed handkerchiefs or wear scented mustache wax, but nothing helps. The river, London's toilet for decades, has turned gelatinous, exposing years of neglect. Scientists like John Snow link cholera to water, But miasma theory prevails, blaming bad air. Newspapers demand action, and Joseph Bazalgette proposes a sewer system to carry waste away. You visit the river, gagging at its slithering brown mass, and realize hygiene is now a matter of survival. Illness strikes next. You wake feverish, aching, possibly with dysentery or typhoid. Your landlady calls a doctor who arrives unwashed, carrying a bag of cracked leather. He doesn't believe in germs, blaming bad air or moral failing. He administers calomel, mercury chloride, which tastes like despair, and a mustard plaster that burned your chest. Treatments like bleeding or laudanum, opium, and alcohol are common, often harmful. Doctors reuse unwashed tools, spreading infection. Ignaz Semmelweis, who advocated hand-washing, was mocked. You survive despite the doctor, your body fighting back. The experience leaves you shaken, questioning how anyone trusted Victorian medicine. This leads to miasma theory, the belief that bad air causes disease. Germ theory is dismissed as absurd, so cities focus on airing out smells with wide boulevards, trees, or vinegar. Cleaning sometimes helps by accident, but the logic is flawed. You see workers sprinkle lime on garbage, believing it neutralizes miasma, while butchers use mint to mask rot. Pomanders are carried for protection, blending fashion and superstition. Despite evidence from Pasteur and Snow, miasma persists, tied to classist views that blame the poor for disease. You pass a contaminated water pump, still used because it looks clean, highlighting the deadly gap between belief and reality. Finally, you meet Elijah Hargreaves, a sanitation reformer working on Bazalgette's sewer system. You follow him into a grimy tunnel, where he inspects leaking cesspits and plans new drains. The work is slow, hampered by politics and funding disputes, but progress is visible in cleaner streets and proper drains. The 1848 Public Health Act was a start, but optional, and change is uneven. Elite areas improve first. Elijah's dedication to a cleaner city, driven by hope for his son, contrasts with the apathy of those who ignore the filth. Back home, you collapse, the sewer's stench lingering, but you admire the reformer's gritty resolve. You wake to a cockroach on your leg, revealing your lodging's true state. The straw mattress is a flea-infested ecosystem, the blanket dusty and the walls moldy. Your home is as filthy as the streets, just better disguised. Every surface harbors dirt, bugs, or rot, a microcosm of Victorian London's systemic sickness. You glance at the wall, where a tilted, water-damaged photo of an unfamiliar face seems to watch you. Below it, a crack snakes through the plaster, exposing bare bricks. There's no insulation, just a flimsy barrier against London's grimy chaos. The floorboards groan underfoot, and near the edge, a small hole hints at something gnawing, likely your unseen roommate, a rat you've named Gregory. He's polite enough to wait until you're asleep to scuttle through the walls, his scratches matching your heartbeat. Your room lacks running water, a sink, or a toilet, just a cloudy wash basin for sponge baths. You know to ask your landlady for fresh water, though she might not bring it until tomorrow. Lighting comes from a smoky oil lamp that flickers like it's starring in a ghost story, casting eerie cockroach-shaped shadows across the uneven walls. Candles are too costly and only rouse the bugs. The wobbly table by the window rocks with every move, its stuck drawers sealed by years of grime. The chair, splintered and unforgiving, bears cryptic carvings from a past tenant. A grim detail. Many Victorian homes used arsenic-laced wallpaper, its green dyes flaking off to slowly poison residents. Your beige wallpaper isn't reassuring. Arsenic came in neutral tones too. Historians debate how livable these homes were. Some call them cramped but survivable. Others cite records of open drains, shared rooms, and houses built over decaying animal yards. Your bread, stored in a tin, is fuzzy with mold. You scrape it off and eat, as spoilage is routine without refrigeration. The water in your tin cup tastes metallic, but you drink it anyway. Upstairs, thumps and coughs echo through thin walls. You know your neighbor Gertrude by her wet cough and her tragic story. Her husband died of typhus last spring. Downstairs, your landlady argues about the coal bill, her voice sharp with curses. This house is a fragile stack of lies held together by mold and desperation. Lying on your mattress, you hear the city's pulse, rats, muffled sobs, creaking floors. Tomorrow, you'll meet the street urchins who somehow survive in worse conditions with a gritty resilience you lack. At dawn, metal clinks and feral giggles pull you to the window. A pack of barefoot street children darts through piles of manure and crates, one sporting an oversized boot on the wrong foot. These urchins, straight out of a Dickens novel, move like filthy, fast smoke. You follow them into a chaotic city of milk carts, chimney sweeps, and newsboys. The ringleader, Nellie Two Socks, an ironic name, as she owns one sock, wields a stick and a string tied to a rat. Pet or prisoner, it's unclear. She sizes you up, suspicious but sharp, leading her crew of scrappy kids. They show you their world. Hidden passages, dry alley corners for sleeping, a church that trades bread for prayers. Unwashed and soot-smeared, they thrive in the gaps of a broken system, unbothered by baths, which they see as a rare accident, like rain. By the mid-19th century, London teemed with thousands of homeless children, orphans or abandoned by families unable to feed them. Some joined gangs or apprenticeships. Others ended in workhouses or graves. Charities existed, but were underfunded, and trust in adults was scarce. Nellie reveals her treasures: a shard of blue glass, a licked clean chicken bone, a worn coin she hopes to trade for a bun. She admits nuns sometimes offer basins for washing, but only after prayers and ear checks for devils. The kids have their own science, avoiding those with sugar-blooded smells or strange behavior, signs of deadly illness. Historians debate their self-sufficiency. Some see tight-knit communities, others point to violence and chance. Nellie's crew shares bread but steals boots, their morality as flexible as their hygiene. At dusk, they vanish into the city's cracks, leaving you in an alley reeking of stale beer and wet meat. Hoping for cleaner air, you catch a wagon to the countryside, squeezed between cabbages and caged ducks. The air shifts to grass and wood smoke, a relief from London's stench. But the countryside isn't clean, just differently dirty. Animal waste litters fields and paths. At a farmstead, you shovel pig slop, a rancid mix of excrement and scraps that humbles your city-hardened nose. The pigs seem fine, you're not. Next, you visit Buckingham Palace, where wider streets and polished guards suggest cleanliness. But even Queen Victoria relied on sponge baths, not full immersion, with servants hovering nearby. Her elaborate gowns hid sweat, but trapped it, and deodorant was non-existent. Lemons or talc were her best defense. The palace used chamber pots, not reliable plumbing. Servants' quarters reveal the truth. Cramped, grimy rooms where baths were weekly at best. Uniforms rarely washed. A footman, Ellis, describes his routine: polishing silver, serving meals, standing invisibly. He wipes down with starch and rose water, as laundry is a luxury. The palace's marble halls hide dust and smoke, proof that hygiene, even for royalty, is about appearances. Back in your room, you confront your armpit's swampy reality. Victorian deodorant is a myth. Only powders, perfumes, or willpower exist. Body odor was seen as vulgar, even immoral. You dab rose water, which fades fast, or try lavender from a street vendor, but it's feudal. Some tucked herbs or alum powder under their arms, risking irritation for minimal gain. Perfumer Mr. Talbot sells Ode to Civet, a musky disaster, and scoffs at stopping sweat, believing it causes madness. Scholars note the upper classes used scent to signal status, while the poor adapted to the stink. You envy shirtless street boys, their honest sweat free of shame. Your lavender-powdered armpits now smell uniquely awful, a reminder that the body always wins. Visiting Ellie, a dressmaker's apprentice, you learn about women's hygiene. Her layers, chemise split-crotch drawers, petticoats, corset, and gown, are a sweaty prison. Only undergarments are washed regularly. Corsets and dresses are too delicate. Menstruation, called the monthly inconvenience, is shrouded in silence. Women used reusable cloth pads or sanitary belts, washed secretly to avoid gossip. Doctors deemed periods unclean, restricting women's activities to avoid hysteria. Some used sea sponges as tampons, rinsed and reused with questionable safety. Historians debate how women managed, as records are scarce. Ellie shrugs, saying you learn to cope, hiding leaks under corsets and shame. Women's hygiene wasn't about comfort, but containment, their bodies reshaped for society's gaze. Childbirth is next, and it's grim. You accompany Ellie to her cousin Mary's tenement, where she's in labor on a worn mattress. The midwife arrives late, her tools unsterile, her hands unwashed. She uses gin for herself and Mary, and works by superstition, not science. Mary stifles screams, as loud labor was seen as weak. The baby arrives, barely breathing, revived with slaps and breath. Stitching without anesthesia follows, using reused cloths. Historians note home births with midwives were often safer than hospitals, where doctors spread infection. Superstitions abounded. Open windows or laughter could doom mother or child. Mary and her baby survive, a rare win in a vulnerable process. Death is your final stop. At a cemetery, graves are overcrowded, coffins stacked deep, soil spongy with decay. Gravedigger Reggie casually moves old bones to make room. The poor get pine boxes or shared graves. Some wait in dead houses for burial or dissection. Body snatching from medical schools was so common that graves had iron cages. Cemeteries leaked into groundwater, spreading disease. New laws banned inner-city burials, leading to places like Highgate Cemetery, a Gothic haven of ritualized mourning. Widows wore black for years, hair woven into jewelry, but hygiene lagged. Graves shifted, bodies misidentified. Death was a messy, bureaucratic performance. For your final walk, you wander London streets, passing a fountain where kids splash armpits, a bathhouse reusing murky water, and a chemist selling dubious tooth soap. Children cough in schoolyards, baptisms use stale water, and open sewers gurgle nearby. A man hawks health corsets, claiming they aid digestion, but they just trap sweat. The city is a living organism of grime and effort. Back in your room, you peel off damp socks, your body itching with dust and soap. You've survived bathhouses, privies, corsets, and graveyards, learning that Victorian hygiene was about appearances, not cleanliness. Tomorrow, you'll return to modern showers and deodorant, grateful for a world where hygiene isn't a prayer. Tonight, you lie back, the city's grime etched into your skin, and exhale. You've walked through the filth and lived.